Chase, if you could morph into any animal in the style of a one mustached elephant, what would you morph into?
I mean, it would have to be something that flies, right? Like,
You would think so.
flight's so fucking cool. Like, I don't know. I'd be like a hawk, I think.
Yeah.
Hawk's cool. Yeah.
Hawk's a very good thing.
I don't think I want to go like full eagle. It's a little too big for me, but like cool hawk. Yeah.
Cool hawk. I could see that. I think I'd just want to be like one of those big fucking turtles.
Hey man, we already live the big fucking turtle lifestyle.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that sounds pretty good. Like, I get dusty. I don't move around a whole lot. I take up a lot of space.
Are you wanting to be like tortoise, like Galapagos Island?
Oh yeah.
I live for fucking ever on a beach.
Yeah. Just fucking push me out into the sand and let me soak. Like, that just sounds like an all right time. Yeah, man. And you know what?
Like a good time.
Have you ever seen an aggressive or upset Galapagos turtle?
Well, I've never seen a Galapagos turtle, so I guess I can't.
I haven't seen one. They're just like, you've never heard of them, like recent attack from a Galapagos. Like, you've never heard this. They're just chill.
How often have you dealt with snapping turtles though before?
Oh, a lot. I grew up with a river behind my house, and then my parents live on a no-wake lake. Those things suck.
Yeah, those are some mean motherfuckers. Like, wait a minute, you're a turtle. Shouldn't you be chill like all the rest of the turtles? Like, nah, I'm mad.
It's like the thing that makes me get like cringe when I see a lot of folks from our area do the catfish noodling. I'm like, you're gonna literally encounter one.
You're gonna lose a finger on that one.
If you don't know what catfish noodling is, it is a dumb thing that we do not advise. But you put your hand
worms when you got 5 here.
You literally dangle your fingers into murky Mississippi water with logs and shit, and pull fish size of me out of the water.
The hope is to get a catfish to quote unquote bite on your finger / arm. And then you just rip it out of the water. It's so, I mean, I guess it's better than literally shooting guns into the water, which I've also seen some people do, or like try to like blow up fish. Like, that's fucking stupid too. But at least you're not causing yourself bodily harm by
all right, this is gonna be ridiculous. I don't know what core memory we just unlocked of mine. But I just realized how I learned about catfish noodling.
Oh, okay.
So I don't remember like the context, the branding, or anything of that. But I remember in the early 2000s in high school, one of my friends was like, dude, I got like this Girls Gone Wild thing. I'm like, oh, you do?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. I can't wait. Like, put that VHS in. Let's watch this shit. And it was Girls Gone Wild, but it was Girls Gone Wild catfish noodling. And so it was just basically topless girls catfish noodling. And it was the weirdest thing I've ever fucking seen.
Hey man, I'm not here to like kink shame. I don't know what
I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum. That's not what I'm here to do. But I got to tell you, I don't know what it's supposed to. There's a lot of things that could excite you on that video. And I don't quite know.
You had me at naked girls, and then you lost me at topless girls catfishing.
Yeah. So it's very bizarre. Anyway, this is the casual hour.
Apparently.
You've struck gold. My name is Bobby Chase Koeneke, the gamer on the go. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Johnny's not here, so you're probably doing even better. Johnny's on assignment. We're all happy and better because of it.
And there was a Nintendo Direct today. Like, I'm fucking flying high.
And I've got a very special deep dive for Chase. It's just Chase and I. I've kind of built this around this audience tonight. So he gets a Nintendo Direct, he gets No Johnny, and he gets to do a deep dive with me.
It's all for me.
It's all
Perfection.
for Chase. It's gonna be a very good episode. It's episode 330. It is June 21st. Chase, you and I are gonna talk over the Nintendo Direct. I'm gonna play that trailer behind us here.
Okay.
But general thoughts, man. Kick us off here. Like, what the heck happened today? What do you think's going on? How are you feeling?
Also, maybe because it's my day here for the for the casual hour, but we're not doing a what you've been playing segment. So Bobby's been playing a lot of video games. I have not been.
Yes.
We'll pick that back up next week. I have some games I want to play. I have a 3-day weekend this weekend. I'm going to be playing some more Zelda. I'm hopefully going to play a little bit more Super Robot Wars 30. And then I need to play Codename Steam.
Final Fantasy.
Which, I'm out of town, so I don't get to play Final Fantasy. Unlike other people, I will try to play that before we record next week, though. Anyway, the Nintendo Direct early this morning. For us, it's 9 a.m. I guess it's 7 on the West Coast.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought it was really solid. I
do too.
I feel like I would have been more positive on the Summer Games Fest festivities if Nintendo had been a part of them at that time.
It's a little strange that nothing happened with it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense for Nintendo. We've talked about this before, but like they can make headlines whenever the hell they want. And
It's
so
true.
if they want to wait out the other bullshit and go, all right, well now it's our day and now we get to own the news cycle, which they absolutely did. And hey, it's working for us. We're going to talk about Nintendo today and not any of that other bullshit.
Yep. I mean, it was a day before and it was fucking huge. It's just crazy how they do it, man. It's really crazy.
And I know, like, I am the big Nintendo fan of our group. I'm the one still repping the Switch these days.
You're the big Nintendo Switch fan. We're big Nintendo fans. That's the difference.
Sure. Yes. But I was really impressed with a lot of the stuff that I saw, and I think a lot of it was pretty exciting. So we can run down a few things here. The first thing they showed, as you're seeing on screen here, is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC. The DLC in general is called the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, but there are kind of two parts. One of them, this part that we're seeing right now, well, not anymore. It just switched over. The first part is called the Teal Mask, and it's kind of like a Japanese style festival area. And then the second part is on this big boat, and it's called the Indigo Disc. And I imagine when you put Indigo on there and Pokemon, I bet this is going to be more of a battle challenge. I mean, not quite an Elite Four, but it looks like it's more about battle competition. It's not like a battle tower from what I've seen.
It doesn't seem to be super robust.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine similar to the Sword and Shield DLCs, these will be discrete areas that are small and broken off. They're showing off a lot of old Pokemon that are not currently in Sword and Shield. So you're seeing, hey, they put a lot of regular Whoopers in there, not the brown Whoopers, but regular Whoopers are back, baby. Plus a ton of other stuff. They showed off 2 new legendaries, one for each of these DLC pieces.
Does this cost money?
Yes, it absolutely costs money. I don't know how much money it costs. It's coming out
fall and winter.
Fall for the Teal Mask and winter for the Indigo Disc.
Are you gonna pick it up?
I mean, out of obligation, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've never just felt nothing looking at a Pokemon announcement.
I know.
And it kind of broke my heart of like looking at this and going, I don't think I care about this.
Yep, I'm with you.
I mean, I guess I'll play it, but I'm really not excited about it whatsoever.
I mean, we'll dig into it, but especially compared to some of the things that got me very, like, legitimately very excited. It's very forgettable DLC for me, and we kind of got burned bad from the last one. This game, and then the DLC that they kind of promised more and more of with Sword and Shield just didn't deliver, didn't hit.
I liked the Pokemon from the Sword and Shield DLC, but I did not like the DLC itself. So that was disappointing. And this kind of seems to be more of the same in that vein. I don't know. We'll see, but I was not excited about it. They showed off some other Pokemon news. That was Detective Pikachu Returns, which is a new Detective Pikachu game, which I played a tiny little bit of that first one, and it's a little handholdy at the beginning, so I kind of bounced off it, but I love the voice acting. I love that little yellow bastard just wants his fucking coffee.
I know.
It seems like a fun time. I don't know. I might check that out. Having it on Switch instead of the 3DS seems like a cool idea as well. So I don't know.
I think that it just kind of continues a very apparent, not that it's not being done right, but they are remaking something, or at least remastering to a degree, or porting, however you want to look at it. The timing's very apparent. This is stuff that's easy to do. You're in between hardware. Like, we all know another Switch is going to be coming soon. And I think that doing some of these like remastering is a great way to put out polished content that people want on a platform they like. And I'm really hoping that there's cross platform, I'm sorry, but back compatibility with the newer one. But we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I would still really like to see a Let's Go
dude, I know,
Johto, like has silver and gold remake stuff. I still have some issues with the way the control scheme works for Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, but I they already have all the assets for that stuff. Like you have a lot of the Pokemon designs. Just give it to us. Anyway, would you like to skip? I already see you kind of sneaking in there. Just find
I'm trying to find it now.
It's like more in the front there. Yeah, you had it. It was closer to the front.
Okay.
The Super Mario RPG remake. That's probably the biggest news that we saw. There you go. Now you got it. So yeah, this one kind of came out of left field. Is that
we just talked about this game on an episode. You made a comment about it. I can't remember which episode. It's like probably the last 2 or 3. Yeah. Somehow this got brought up, and we were talking
about Paper Mario or something, and Mario RPGs in general. Yeah,
but we recently talked about this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great game. It's one I've never finished. It's one I rented a couple times. My big story with it, I was trying to rent Yoshi's Island because that was the big new Super Nintendo game at the time that I really wanted to play, and the game store or the rental place that I went to didn't have it. Was out of that copy. So I just found the next best thing, which was like, oh well, here's a different Mario game that I haven't played. Let's try this one, and didn't realize it was an RPG. I think at the time I didn't even really know what JRPGs were.
Sure.
So I didn't have the best time with it because I was just like, this isn't all. Like, where's the platforming?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I beat it with my neighbors. Like, we just spent weeks playing it, but it was my first time playing a game like this. And I think what blew me away, if I remember, I was young, but when I first played it, when Bowser joins your party, I was like, what? We get to have Bowser? Yeah. Like, that was wild to me. It was so cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of of two minds on this one. One, I'm glad that more people are going to get exposed to Super Mario RPG, myself included. It's a game that more people should know about. On the other hand, I still think that original game looks gorgeous, and if that just showed up on Nintendo Switch Online, which it hasn't this entire time, and this is probably the reason why, if they knew they were going to be making this. But it's like I would just kind of like to play that game. And hey, I have many ways that I can play Super Mario RPG, and I should just do that. Yep. But I'm probably going to play this one as well because hey, it'll be on the Switch. It'll be easy access. I think it looks pretty good. Oh, and hey, Super Mario RPG, baby. They're fucking doing it.
It's really fucking cool that it's happening. I wonder if it will be more widely praised, or because I feel like there's a lot of nostalgia there with it, but I think just JRPGs in general have gotten very popular. Mario's obviously very popular now. We'll see. I'm curious how that one will do.
And I wonder what they add, if anything. because that is a relatively short game,
Yeah.
especially in terms of JRPGs. So they keep saying like it's a visual update, which makes it sound like, hey, it's not a full blown remake. We're not changing mechanics. We're not doing a bunch of stuff to it.
Right.
But I do wonder if they're going to throw some little bonus content here or there based on other things. We'll see. But yeah, that was pretty exciting. I told you before the direct, I'm still on the team that wants to see the Zelda Oracle games get remade in Link's Awakening style, which I think they can pull the trigger on that at any time they want. And I guess it doesn't make sense a month after Tears of the Kingdom comes out to say, hey, other Zelda games, like this can be Mario's time. And it certainly was. There's so many Mario games. Let's talk about the other ones. They teased a new Princess Peach game that should be coming out sometime next year. They didn't show very much about it at all, other than the one thing I noticed: Peach is not wearing a crown in any of the stuff for it. So I wonder if it's like a Peach origin story in that way, or what. She looks
to have some powers too. It looked like she was able to do some stuff. I mean, it looks like they're using the 2D on it. It looks like it's using 3D modeling. I think it looks great, but she does not have a crown at all. You're right.
Yeah. I really enjoyed a lot of Super Princess Peach, which was the DS game starring Peach. I didn't like the end of that game because then it said like, oh, you didn't collect enough toads throughout the levels to get to the actual final boss. And I went, whoa, well, I'm not doing that then. And I stopped playing the game. But I had a lot of fun doing that stuff before. So hey, they can make a good Peach game. I'd like to see them make another one. And then what you're seeing now, they also announced that there was going to be a remaster of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, which was the 3DS Luigi's Mansion game, or the second Luigi's Mansion game.
Did you play this
in that franchise? I have it. I've played a little bit of it. I never played the first Luigi's Mansion.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't play the third one on the Switch that people really liked. You played that one, right?
It's awesome.
The third, yeah.
It's very good.
I hear it's really, really good.
Yeah,
I heard people say Dark Moon is the best one.
Wow.
Which is exciting to me. So maybe this is the one I'll get into if it comes to the Switch. I mean, I own it on 3DS already. I should just fucking play it there. But hey, new stuff on better hardware than the 3DS anyway. I know it's not the best hardware. We've had this discussion before. But, so we'll skip through some other stuff here. I mean, we're seeing the Batman Arkham trilogy showing up here. That's fine. They announced a lot of stuff, a lot of ports. But the next one that really got me excited was Silent Hope, which is an RPG that is an action RPG. It kind of, the way I'm describing it when I saw it is it's like, what if it was Cult of the Lamb, except like Bravely Default anime style. You were on it there for a bit, and then you
I was.
It's okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
It looked good. I thought it looked interesting. The idea is that you kind of go into this dungeon, you fight monsters, you collect stuff, you bring it back to the town. I guess it's a little bit like why am I forgetting the name? The Loop Hero. A little bit like Loop Hero 2. It's like go do your thing and then collect your stuff and bring it back and upgrade this town, and then that gives you better bonuses. You can craft, you can farm, you can do some other stuff to make this kind of hub area better, so then you can go further into the dungeon. It's got a couple different characters, so you can use swords or bows or magic or whatever. It just seemed pretty cool. And also, I did notice, like, oh, that's the Harvest Moon cow. Like, that's like the big moo cow. And like, I love that. I love that little guy. And that's actually the Harvest Moon cow because it's being made by Marvelous, who are the makers of Story of Seasons, which used to be Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon split at one point, so Harvest Moon is not Harvest Moon anymore. Story of Seasons is Harvest Moon, but in Japan, Harvest Moon was always Story of Seasons. It's like a Resident Evil Biohazard kind of thing, except worse. Anyway, so yes, that is actually the cow, the iconic cow, and I love it.
Fuck me, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that one looked fun and looked like more of a small adventure that I was pretty interested in. Something you might be interested in, Bobby, is Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope has some
I know.
DLC. The second DLC, I guess, the Last Spark Hunter, and that is out today, right now. You can
I
go
know.
play it.
I need to do that. Well, I can't play anything else besides Zelda because there's an update downloaded, and if I play anything else, I'm going to be forced to put the update on the game, and I ain't trying to do that right now. So
hey, there's a new duplication glitch out there, Bobby. So you don't even
Yeah.
need. You can find your own thing. Yeah, no, I get that. It looks like this DLC is more about this musical area that
Yeah.
they've been showing off. So like you walk around and it's like xylophone, stepping stones, and things like that. I don't know. Seems
Did you
pretty good. They
see?
didn't.
There's a
What's
tweet
up?
today from somebody on the Ubisoft side that basically said Nintendo asked them to wait to put Sparks of Hope out for their next console, and they're like,
I did, yeah. I think I saw Arthur Geese talking
yeah,
about that of like, yeah, hey, one of the he was trying to say one of the reasons he thinks this was going to be a down direct, it was right before it came out, is that everybody's gearing up for a potential next Switch, and if that rumor is to be believed, that Nintendo is saying like, hey, we got something brewing. Why don't you leave your cool shit for
yeah,
this next thing? Maybe we don't need to put anything out now. And then the direct came out, and I think they had a lot of good stuff.
for sure.
Maybe not like a super killer app in the same way that like Tears of the Kingdom is. I don't know. We'll get to that Mario
Yeah.
game, but there's it seems like there's a lot of cool stuff still coming to
Yeah.
the Switch. Let's see. Also, hey, here's a tentpole release, Pikmin 4. That's coming out next month.
That's soon,
That's
right?
July 21st. There's a
Yeah.
demo that is coming out next week, on the 28th. So people can give that a shot. And then also kind of stealth announced today, HD versions of Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2 are on the eShop right now. And there will be like a physical bundle of both of those games that comes out in September. Um, I love Tinykin.
Yeah,
and
same.
I love the idea of Pikmin. I've got Pikmin amiibo. I like playing Captain Olimar in Smash. I think it's got a really cool art style to it, but I've just never really played the Pikmin games. And 4 seems cool.
Yeah, it looks really
I should
cool.
play that. I should play any one of them because they all seem great. But I thought this showed really nicely. I like the idea of the day and night stuff and the new glow Pikmin. I like this this poochy ass looking dog
Yeah, man.
that's a part of this, and the way he can change how you play the game or how you navigate the game, where you can have the Pikmin ride the dog, and Pikmin can't swim. Well, I think the blue ones can swim, but hey, you can load up your Pikmin on the dog, and then the dog can swim, or the dog can fight, or the dog can do these other things to help you get
Yeah, man.
yeah, just help you add things to this. I think it looks great, and
I do too.
I'd be willing to try out that demo and see more of it.
I think we can also call out that they do still offer for Nintendo Switch Online members vouchers that you can get for $100. You get 2 games. They have a list of games that you can get, but even Zelda, a $70 game you can pick up there. But a lot of the games that we're covering right now that are at that $59.99 price point or above, you can use the vouchers for. So
Yeah, if you know you're going to buy 2 games, save yourself 20
$20.
bucks, right?
Yeah,
And or in Zelda's case, $30.
for sure.
So yeah, it's a great deal. It's a great deal if you already know you're going to buy these games day one. Just a way to take a little money off it.
Yep.
This next one I think was surprisingly to me the game of the show. Which is a game I hadn't even heard of before this, so it was just really exciting to me. It's called Penny's Big Breakaway. The trailer announced that this was being made by the Sonic Mania team, which is really interesting when it's put next to the Sonic. What is it called? Sonic Superstars, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, Sonic Superstars, which Sega's making or Sonic Team's making, that doesn't have the Sonic Mania team involved and is kind of doing that 2.5D kind of thing. It's not the pixels stuff that from Mania that we all loved. I mean, that game looks fine. I think it looks okay. But hearing this game, Penny's Big Breakaway, is by that team. Now this is a fully 3D platformer, but I just think these mechanics look so good. The
Yeah.
idea is that you have this yo-yo and that it can morph and change in lots of different ways. So it can be like a projectile that you're using to hit things. It can be like a hook shot kind of thing that you're using to like extend your reach or grapple hook onto things. It also can become like a big wheel that you can ride on like a bike.
It's awesome
to
looking.
gain your speed up. It just looks so smooth, and I love all the movement tech in here. It looks fucking rad. It looks like it's ripe for speed running purposes.
Yeah.
I was so impressed by this. This is coming out early 2024. I think it looks really, really good. It was, like I said, it was my game of the show. I'm so excited for this one.
It looks like the art. This is gonna be a deep fucking cut, but it looks like the art that my like 1992 to 94 Trapper Keeper had on it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I can see that.
Like textbooks from that era, the Trapper Keeper, like the big geometrical 3D shapes. Like it reminds me a lot of that.
There was another game that came out kind of recently, Lunistis, isn't that
Yep.
what it was called? It was kind of that same, like, oh, we kind of made like a 3D Sonic game,
Yep.
that had that similar, really like PS1
Magic Eye poster.
through, PS1 through Lisa Frank style. When you mentioned like Trapper Keeper stuff, and this I think definitely goes in there. One of the things that pissed me off a little, or I got baited, I guess, is that at one of these things when they were showing off, oh, here are our next group of headlines for Nintendo Switch Online, or for Nintendo Switch, and one of the things that they said is like, oh, this is going to give a real spark to the Switch or something. I was like, oh, are they putting out Spark the Electric Jester? Because like those games look so good, and I would like to play them on a Switch and not on a PC. But no, the Spark the Electric Jester did not get announced for Switch. But then I saw this game and I was like, oh, this kind of like the equivalent of that, and I was very excited by it.
I was excited by this.
Yeah, a new booster core stuff. Absolutely. Yeah, Wave 5, they showed off a brand new level here. This they're calling it Squeaky Clean Sprint, but it's like a bathroom themed. We've had this talk before. I like anything that feels Micro Machines-y, and this is definitely in that vein. They announced 3 new newish playable characters because they've been in other Mario Kart games, but Petey Piranha, Wiggler, and Kamek. Kamek, so that one, he's only from Tour. From Tour they said, but
Kamek
one of like
the rules, man.
Kamek's pretty great. One of the old Mario Kart 64 images has Kamek as a possible driver, and then they took him out, and I can't remember who they replaced him with. So the idea that he's coming to a mainline Mario Kart game as a playable character, I think that's great. I'm still only going to play Shy Guy because I've made my allegiance, but I do like Kamek. Kamek's a good one.
Look for that on a casual Friday. Yeah,
so they just said it's coming this summer, and it was like it is this summer. Give me a date. Give me a date. God damn it.
Yeah.
Another one that I was really excited about was Star Ocean: The Second Story R, which is a remake of the second Star Ocean game. It's got kind of a 2D, an HD 2D look to it, with some of the pixely based stuff, especially with the characters. Now you're kind of seeing it. Yep. I played the first Star Ocean on the Switch, the remake that I think was originally like a remake for the Vita or maybe the PSP. And I had a surprisingly good time with it. I did not think I was going to like it as much as I did, and so hearing that, hey, we've kind of put a new coat of paint on the sequel to that game, I might be ready to dip my toe back into some more Star Ocean and see how this feels, because I really like the look of this stuff. I like these talking heads, these kind of hand-drawn characters, and then I think the pixel stuff looks kind of cool too. So that one's exciting to me.
For sure.
They announced a new fucking WarioWare, Bobby.
I know. What the hell?
Exciting. I don't even think I'm that excited for it, but it's just exciting that they're making a new WarioWare. It's called WarioWare Move It, coming out November 6th. Oh, by the way, Star Ocean comes out November 3rd.
Okay.
But WarioWare Move It comes out the 6th. It uses Joy-Cons. I think this is both the cool and bad part of it, is that one, it uses Joy-Cons. So yes, you're using your Joy-Cons, and it's a little bit like a smooth moves kind of thing where you're doing a lot of motion control stuff. Except now you're doing it with two hands. So like the ones that they showed there is like, oh, you have to like curtsy with the dress, so you have to like pull up your Joy-Cons like you're holding each part of the dress. Lots of fun things you can do with that. The problem is if you want to play this in multiplayer, well, that person needs their own set of Joy-Cons. So I hope you have two sets of Joy-Cons, and I hope they're both charged.
Yeah,
and for my case, I technically have two sets of Joy-Cons. Only a quarter of them are charged because I have like the Hori one on one side that absolutely does not work when it's disconnected from the Switch. So I've got three Joy-Cons that kind of just sit in a corner. And like, well, I'm not going to play that game with anybody, I guess. Some households are going to, like some households are going to be fine, and they're going to have a great time with this. I kind of just wish it was a more traditional WarioWare where I could, play it on the go or something like that, or just like give us a port of WarioWare Gold onto the Switch, so I get something too that I can play on my own, because this is a game, as cool as I think it is it's not one I'm going to end up being able to play as much.
That's fair.
And then the big news was the final thing they showed, which was Super Mario Brothers Wonder, a brand new 2D Mario game. It's coming out October 20th. Wild. It looks pretty good. Like, this is not they are getting away from the new Super Mario Brothers style, which, thank God, I think that one's run its course. I think the art style here is not.
I like that little short Mario. I like that little tater tot Mario.
Yeah, I'm not in love with the look exactly, but I think it's better than the new Super Mario Brothers look. And the thing that impressed me most is just how fucking weird they're allowing this to be. One of my favorite stages of video games ever is touch fuzzy get dizzy from Yoshi's Island. So you touch touch these fuzzies, and then everything goes wild, and like everything starts stretching in weird ways. And it's like every level in this is touch fuzzy get dizzy in a way, because you get stuff where the pipes are like right there, like the pipe is contracting and like becoming like an inchworm.
Mario gets really long.
Yeah, big long Mario, and like, okay, yeah. I mean, I remember like the tall, lanky Mario from the Mario Maker. And it's like, what if we made an even longer Mario? And like, yeah, okay, sure. And then at the end here, we get one final power up. Like, what if Mario was an elephant?
Hell,
like, okay, sure, I guess, yeah, fuck it. He's been a raccoon before. Why can't he be an elephant?
I love the little fucking push thing with Daisy too, pushing.
Yeah.
I thought that looked wild.
And Daisy is a playable character. Lots of I wonder if she's going to be more of like a palette swap of Peach, or if she's going to have her own mechanics that feel different. Right there, they showed Yoshi. I couldn't tell. I imagine that's Yoshi as a different playable character, but then somebody jumped on Yoshi and they had the Yoshi interaction where he had like the extra jump. The glide jump thing. Yeah. So I wonder if that's going to be part of this game as well. Like if you can have multiple interactions, or if that was not a playable Yoshi character and it was just like a Yoshi in the world that you could then jump on. Totally. Couldn't quite tell from that, but I think this looks colorful. I think this looks interesting. It looks really creative, and it just seems like they're going to have a lot of fun with what a 2D platforming Mario game can be. And I think that's great. I'm very excited about it.
We should beat that game on a Monday series.
Yeah, I'd be willing to try that.
I think that could be fun.
Not our certain turn-based tactical fare, but hey, I'm willing to take a break and play some Mario. I'll run down some of the other stuff real quick here. Again, we're not going to run through all of it. They showed off a new Dragon Quest Monsters game called Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince that comes out December 1st. I think Dragon Quest Monsters is kind of cool. It's like a Pokemon like with Dragon Quest beasties. Kind of neat. We mentioned the booster course pack. Vampire Survivors is getting a port to Nintendo Switch, which makes perfect sense. And it gets a little bonus in that now it has 4-player co-op, which I think sounds like a really cool idea for Vampire Survivors. I have to imagine that is going to just be an update that all versions of Vampire Survivors will get, not just the Switch. But pretty cool that if you want to play Vampire Survivors with a friend, doing it on the Switch it seems like a pretty solid way of doing it.
Yeah.
We already knew that there was a Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 that included MGS 1, 2, and 3, and then like some comic book side story stuff, and also the NES Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, and then I think also the MSX Metal Gear 1 and 2. A decent collection of some of the early Metal Gear games.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. All coming to Switch, and that's cool as well. I'm almost even more interested for what a Volume 2 would be, because one, I just want to I want to see Metal Gear Solid 4 show up somewhere else other than a PS3. And also, if you're telling me that there's a possibility that I could play Peace Walker a third time on a Nintendo Switch now, I would absolutely do that. That is one of my favorite games ever, and certainly my favorite Metal Gear game. Peace Walker's so good; it's so much fun to play, and I think that would be fantastic on a Switch, because it was fantastic on a Vita, it was fantastic on a PSP, it was fantastic on an Xbox 360. So I bet that game would be great there too.
Continues to be great.
We actually didn't talk about this in the. In our talk about the Summer Games Fest, but there was that new Sonic announced, that Sonic Superstars.
Yeah.
And we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I think it looks okay. It's fine. I don't know.
It's something.
When you're not doing pixels, I think the sense of speed is really hard to get right. And even though they're saying that we have taken the exact mechanical physics of the pixel games and just translated it into 3D, my brain doesn't see it as right. I don't know if it's like maybe it's a 60 frames thing, like maybe having it at 30 frames like makes the sense of speed feel more to me. Another person I heard on a podcast was talking about the momentum of the camera, and this one doesn't have as much camera momentum to it, and maybe part of it is that it has a bunch of co-op stuff in it, so you kind of need to keep the characters in the middle. But having that inertia for the camera for like Sonic to be able to like zoom way out of the camera and the camera have to like catch up to him, or vice versa. I don't know. I guess Sonic Superstars I'm a little tepid on. And I'm still a little pissed that they just didn't make a Mania 2, because
I get it.
That's what I really want.
I think it'll play good. I mean, look, I've learned my lesson in doubting Sonic to only have Frontier show up and like make me super happy. But
yeah, you really enjoyed Frontiers.
I loved that game, and so now I'm just like, you know what? Like I'll fucking try it. Like Frontier is very different than mainline Sonic, but we'll see. I got the capability to play it on multiple high refresh displays. Like I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah. And then last thing that I'll mention here, they did say there's going to be new Zelda and Ganondorf Tears of the Kingdom amiibo.
Hell yeah. Both are very good.
They're coming out this holiday. I thought it was a little interesting. They showed off the Link one that's already out, where he's doing like the hand pose. Yep. And you can tell, like, oh yeah, his little feet come off the coin base, and then the Zelda one, it's like, okay, that one looks fine because she's just like standing in the middle of it, or like lifted off a little bit with like a post on her butt to stabilize her. And then the Ganondorf one, they had to like build a whole extra base platform that goes on the base because he's doing his like big yoga stretch out move. Like that's stupid, and I like it. That's great.
Yeah. Yep. It's really cool, man.
You could have just chosen a different pose. You could have done anything, but you said, fuck it. What if we just made this amiibo big?
I'm all for the big amiibos, man. It was
Anything else you want to mention from the direct that we didn't cover?
No, I've pre-ordered both Mario games. I've got RPG and Wonder both ready to go with the vouchers. I'm so excited for RPG. Like, I know that we talked about it earlier, but it's a very important game to me. Spent a lot of time as a kid playing it, and I've thought about that one a lot, even replaying it, and now I have a good reason to do it. So just doubling down on that, my excitement.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was most excited. I have been, my brain has been completely rewired by this, but it's one of my favorite YouTube videos of all time. It's the what do they call, like, Nirvana the band? Even though that's very confusing because it's not the band. But it's the update day video. So anytime I hear Super Mario RPG, I immediately go into the bossa nova croon of Super Mario RPG.
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Mario 3. It's good. And so I immediately had to go and find and watch that video again after the direct, because anytime somebody says Super Mario RPG, it clicks in my brain and I can't get it out. And I don't want it out because it's great. It's a great song. We lost so much with the Wii Shop Wednesday. Yep. Anyway, that was the direct. I think it was solid. I'm pretty happy about it. I'm excited about where the Switch is going for the rest of this year and early next year, as we continue to anticipate a new Switch somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
And I also like that YouTube chat for Nintendo Directs is going to continue to YouTube chat for Nintendo Directs, where they want to see Silk Song and it's never going to happen, or they want to Mother 3 and it's like, guys, I would like it too, but you gotta stop.
Those days are gone. Well, Chase, thanks for getting those lined up. There's some cool shit happening. Get those vouchers if you're interested, but it's you and I now. It's time for a deep dive. If you're not familiar with deep dives here at the Casual Hour, once a month we pick a topic by our own admission that we bring to the other crew here. And it can be a show and tell, which could be gaming artifacts. It could be a deep dive on industry like Bungie. It could be something...
half a Bungie.
Half a Bungie.
Yeah, but Johnny will never finish that deep dive, will he?
No. And then Johnny said that he was going to be gone. And I was like, all right, it's going to be Chase and I. And then I went and did something. And I picked up one of those new ROG allies. And I've been spending a lot of time this week with this, and I sold my Steam Deck.
Yeah, fuck a Steam Deck.
And I've been playing a ton of Zelda on the Switch, and it kind of occurred to me that I've been spending a lot of time in the last several months playing handheld stuff. And it got me thinking about you being the gamer on the go, the person that I know for this. And we've had a lot of conversations on this show and outside of the show around what the fuck is handheld, what is going on there. And you, I think more than anybody, have an affinity and an expertise in this area. You have a dedicated evergreen podcast to it that covers and celebrates all things handheld. It's great. It's called Gamers on the Go. I've got an interview here for you tonight.
Okay.
And I want to learn from you about what the fuck is happening with handheld games. How did we get here? And I want to talk to you a little bit about how we even approach that subject anymore. How do we celebrate this? And I'd like to also talk to you about, where does this go? Like, where does handheld go from here? And so I've got like 10 questions to ask you tonight and go through this. We don't have to get through all 10 of them, but it's a very complicated subject tonight. But prior to 2017 especially, how would you define handheld gaming, and why did you dedicate just so much time to crafting a podcast based on it?
Sure. I mean, the easier answer to start with anyway is the why did I make Gamers on the Go? Which is twofold. One, it's because I met Patrick Klepek, now at Remap, used to be at Waypoint, used to be at Giant Bomb, used to be at Kotaku and MTV News and One Up. Used to be a lot of places. I met him at a PAX. It was I don't think it was the first PAX I went to, but it was one of the early PAXs I went to, and met him and was talking to him about, hey, I've got this other podcast I do with some friends. At that time, it was called World 8 when I was doing it in college, long before I met Bobby or Johnny. Yeah. And I was just chatting with him about, we're small and we're still trying to figure it out. And his advice was, if you're making a podcast, he was at Giant Bomb at the time. He's like, he said it as nice as he possibly could have. But he's like, you're not going to be the Giant Bombcast. There's already a Giant Bombcast, and people listen to that show already. There's a lot of people listen. People don't need a second one. They're not looking for a second one.
Where was that advice 6 years ago?
I think I probably told you guys that, but maybe. You already had the casual hour more or less decided on what you wanted to do. And again, the casual hour is something that we kind of do more for ourselves than we do for an audience. It's great that we have an audience and we like talking to them, but it serves a different purpose. But Patrick's advice to me was, if you're going to make a video game podcast at this time, what you should do is find your niche and find something that you can talk about that is different than what a mainstream Giant Bomb style podcast would be, because nobody needs a second one of those. And then they made the Giant Beast Cast, and then people did want a second one of those, but they wanted it with those people. So that's where Gamers on the Go came from. Is I was looking for my niche, and when I was thinking about it, I thought, what are the games that matter to me most? And it was things like Pokemon. It was things like Super Mario Land, and it kind of clicked in me, like, oh yeah, like handheld gaming. Like when I had a Game Boy as a kid and going on car trips, that was another thing. It was like my parents had, we have a place at the Lake of the Ozarks that we rented until we could afford one. And so we would make a lot of trips, many weekends, going from our little town in mid-Missouri down to the Lake of the Ozarks. And so that meant I was in a car a lot, and a Game Boy was the only video game console I could play in a car like that. So I got a lot of play with that, and it really made me have an appreciation for those styles of games. And, I certainly played other styles of games as well. I had an NES, I had a Super NES, I played all that stuff. But I had an affinity more towards those kinds of games, which led me to thinking, okay, what if I based the show around handheld games? And I also had a person that had another podcast that I really respected. His name was Evan Killam. He's still around. Sure. He doesn't do his podcast as often anymore, but he had a podcast called This Podcast Contains Spoilers, where he and a guest came on and they just absolutely spoiled the shit out of a topic. It could be a book, it could be a movie, it could be a video game. And he had me on. I mean, I was a frequent listener already, but he had me on to do John Carpenter's The Thing. Nice. And which was a fun experience to get on there. But I really liked that format of, it's just you and one other person. We're going to pick one topic. This is such an evergreen thing. You even mentioned like the Gamers on the Go is evergreen. And that's the point, is that we're not just covering the news that happens week to week, kind of like what we do with the casual, like we did just there with the Nintendo Direct.
Totally.
That, next a year from now, somebody could go, oh, here's an episode on Link's Awakening. I actually don't think I've made a Link's Awakening episode yet.
You missed the mark.
I've done the Oracle games though. That was episode 2. Don't go back and listen to that. It's old and bad. But like here's an episode on a game I like. Let's just go check that out, and people could listen to it at any time. So that's kind of where Gamers on the Go came from. To your other question though, which is thornier and why I took so much time stalling to not answer it, is pre 2017, what is a handheld game? And I mean, it's easy to be reductive and be like, well, it's a game that you can play on a handheld machine, which at the time was like a phone, or a DS or a 3DS or a PlayStation Portable or a Vita or something like that, a Game Gear. that these were games that were on these style of systems. Now, you also had, I think you could make the argument, and I probably would, is that there were lots of games that were on handheld devices that were not handheld games.
Yeah.
They were games that were trying to be the big console games, or even straight ports of those games. And I think the Vita, one of the reasons in my eyes that it failed, I'm sure it's not the actual reasons it failed, but it's when you try to put a game like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is a game I love, by the way, but you try to put Marvel vs. Capcom 3 directly onto a Vita and go, well, there you go, it's the game. And it's like, well, I don't want that. I want a game that is designed to work on this device, and is not even designed for it. It is built from the ground up for this device. And I think what's interesting, and what made me really interested in talking about specific games on Gamers on the Go, is the people who did make games with that audience in mind. That if you're playing a handheld game, you are probably on a bus or in a car, or at least like you're away from home generally, because if you were at home, you'd be playing your big boy console. So you need something that is relatively short, or has easy stopping points.
And I will say that you are doing exactly what I wanted you to do.
Yeah.
Which is, you are just walking right into the second question.
Great. And that's fantastic.
That worked. My plan worked. I was going to ask you, like, what elements do you believe make a game feel handheld?
Yeah.
And are there any particular design principles or features that you think are unique or necessary to the handheld gaming experience?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is the time, is the amount of time you put in something. I think about, I go back to like original Game Boy when I'm thinking of a lot of these things, because I think they're more evident there than they are for newer games. Maybe like mobile games, you're going to get that as well. But I think back to something like Super Mario Land, the very first Super Mario Land. You have discrete Super Mario Brothers levels. Makes total sense. Like, those take you what, a minute maybe tops for basically every level, if you're if you're struggling, I guess. That's great for handheld play. You can get a handful of these levels done, and then you're at your destination and you can put it away. You can hit pause, you can save, and then you're done. Pokemon, even though that game is a lot longer than a minute or two or hours long, that's a game that is specifically designed with like somebody's schedule in mind, that that I could be watching TV, or I could be holding a conversation with somebody while playing Pokemon, and I can look up from this game at any time and talk to you and have this conversation. And then I can go back down and, I can hit a button and, hit the attack or whatever. But it's not something that is demanding every part of my time. I don't have to be fully immersed in this. This might be why I don't like the idea of VR, is that the idea of fully immersing myself into something, while that idea is generally cool, like, oh yeah, I really feel like I'm part of the game, the other part is, I'm like, that's kind of a con to me, is to be that disconnected from the world. I like the idea of, I'm playing something, but I can look up, I can take a phone call, I can look at a text, I can do all these things. And that's why that old turn-based style of Pokemon, it was something that was probably really appealing to me, and same for tactical games and JRPGs and all that stuff, because it gave you time to think or talk or go make some food if you're hungry, and all those things were relatively important to me. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff too. There's a lot of stuff with like making sure you're using the screen real estate well. I think of something like Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, which was the Super Mario Brothers remake for the Game Boy Color, and the Game Boy Color screen is not 4:3. It's not like a regular television at that time. And when you try to put Super Mario Brothers on that screen 1-to-1, pixel to pixel, it's squished. It doesn't. Yeah. Mario feels too big on that screen, and it doesn't work. It doesn't feel good.
Totally. That's a big piece of it.
Yeah, and that's why something like Super Mario Land, I think, works so well, is that they changed the Mario sprite. They changed it to fit a a Mario game that has this style of screen real estate and to make it feel good within that. And I think that's why Super Mario Land and Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins are much better games than Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, which is essentially an NES game that they ported to a Game Boy Color, and I just don't think it works nearly as well.
It's interesting, the replacement that I think with casual gaming. So first and foremost, like mobile phones, and we'll get into that in a minute, but
Yeah.
the very first thing that happens is statistically you can see the first app download is actually a game on majority of the smartphones that are out there today. But when you look at what gaming on the go, or if you look at handheld gaming, what it replaced, you can go back decades and you can see the figurehead of the home sitting at the dinner table with a crossword puzzle or reading the news. You've got the person like that you mentioned on a commute or a bus. I think handheld gaming has always been designed to give you something to distract you from the things you don't want to do, or to help you take on this. Like, it's that moment that you get to be yourself just a little bit longer between the next thing. Hey, I don't have time to sit down and play a game, but dinner will be ready in a few minutes. When you're a kid, I can pick up and play a little Tetris or whatever it would be. It's just interesting to see how that was maybe like an idea or the problem statement for handheld gaming to solve, and what that kind of happened in that space. It does roll in a little bit to like this next part of it, like establishing what those things are. But I would love to know, what would you consider in the last decade to be one of the most significant changes that has occurred in the industry when it comes to handheld gaming? Like what's happened there?
Yeah, I mean, let's keep going pre-Switch here, because Switch was also something that really changed everything, and I think we can talk about that as well. But one of the things that I think it's more like philosophies. You have a philosophy that's the Sony philosophy, and the Sony philosophy is, what if we tried to get your console into something that's handheld size? And that's where you get the PSP, and that's where you get the Vita. And while I think there's a lot of really smart developers, especially indie developers, who made games specifically for the Vita that feel like Vita games, not like console games that are on a Vita, there are also way too many games, in my opinion, and probably like a mandate from Sony, or the games that Sony wanted on there and they funded to put on there, is they wanted that console experience on a handheld, because they thought that's what cutting edge technology should be. It should look like the closest thing to consoles. And I still just think that's the wrong direction. Whereas then you had the Nintendo philosophy of continuing to try to do something weird and something innovative and something that consumers didn't even know they wanted, and that was the dual screen stuff. Which goes back to their roots from the Game & Watch, where there were the Game & Watch with dual screens, and pulling out this idea from the past and building on it and finding a way. Okay, what if the bottom screen is this touch screen and we have a stylus, so now we can have these different gameplay styles that go with that. And so you had this more wild, innovative philosophy that Nintendo was going through, and I think you came out with a lot of really cool games in that era. Now the problem is, those games are so innovative and weird that they're really hard to preserve onto other things. Like emulation had to change quite a bit to be able to function with DS games, and they're still not all that great, because using your mouse as a stylus isn't exactly the same, and it's just weird to do. So they're not. It's not as easy as something like a Game Boy Advance to just, I'm playing this video game on my computer. And as DSs and 3DSs each year get older and older, those things are going to break down, and then how do we play those games again? So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You got really cool games in the moment, and now they're a lot tougher today. I mean, you get people trying to port things like The World Ends With You, or Ghost Trick, that's going to come out here really soon. That was a DS game originally, and so finding ways, it's a developer challenge, but it's one that people are taking on in some cases, and keeping some of those games alive. And then you have more of like the phones. You have your App Store stuff, and that is I mean, we could spend a whole episode on App Store stuff and
For
how
sure.
mobile gaming has changed from,
Snake.
everything had to be 99 cents on the App Store, because anything higher than that didn't sell, except for Final Fantasy games, but people were pissed about those prices anyway.
Right.
But everything else could only be 99 cents, and it was killing the market. And now and then free to play games happen, and now it's microtransaction-y up the ass, and people are pissed about that. And now you're getting more into subscription stuff with Apple Arcade, and the way people are consuming these kinds of mobile games and what they want out of a mobile game. And so it is a lot of different philosophies that kind of come out of how do you do handheld gaming. And then the one that changed everything for better or for worse is the Switch. And Sony's handhelds died off. Apple, they're not stopping phones for sure. So that market's still there, but it feels like that market has gotten a lot quieter. I mean, I'm sure the numbers are still crazy on a lot of that stuff, but it feels like we don't hear as much about mobile games as we did beforehand. And then Nintendo said, well, we're not giving up on handhelds, but we're merging them into our console business.
Right.
And now you have the Switch. And my biggest worry with the Switch, and you can find old episodes of Gamers on the Go where they announced the Switch. My biggest worry was, is this going to kill the idea of what the handheld game is? Because we discussed it earlier. There's all this kind of discrete stuff that what a handheld game is versus what a console game would be. If you make your handheld into a console, then you don't need to have any handheld games, but also there's a bunch of people who have this idea of games that they want to make that would work on a handheld, and the Switch is also kind of that. I think we've actually my fears were a little bit unfounded. I think a lot of developers, again, especially indie developers, same way that they showed up for the Vita, they showed up for the Switch.
Yeah.
Nintendo, I think, to their credit, has ended up making a good mix of, yes, there's a Tears of the Kingdom out there that feels like the newest cutting edge of what Zelda can be, super console style game. But then, it wasn't all that long ago, we got the Link's Awakening remake,
Right.
which that was a handheld game when it first came out, and it still had a lot of that handheld game feel. And they're both Zelda games, and they both came out in the when was Link's Awakening? 2019, 2018? It was pre-COVID.
It was 2018.
Okay,
I think.
Like 2018 versus 2023, or even 2017 for Breath of the Wild versus 2018, and you see, hey, these Zelda games, despite being extremely different, can also coexist on the same console because they're just different styles of games. 2019. Okay. Yeah. Same diff in that sense. Yeah.
It's interesting what's happened in my eyes with it. I'm going to call back to like just follow me with this, but like the smartwatch market, like that smartwatch exists only because your phone does. And there's some sickos that try to only have a watch and go out there and do that stuff. But by and large, your watch is supposed to give you a micro experience of your phone while you can either use it or you're going. And I thought Game Boys for the longest time gave you a micro experience to your console. And what's been happening with the Switch especially is it used to become like, how can we get an adjacent Mario game on a handheld? Then it became, how can we take this Nintendo console game to a 3DS? And now we're looking at it in a sense of, I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom, the most mainline, biggest and most crazy Zelda game in a handheld, but also on a TV, and it's an absolute seamless. The lines are blurred completely. Like I'm just I have an integrated screen versus an external screen now, and if somebody asked me like, "What's your favorite handheld game?" I would be like, "Well, it's Zelda," and that is a very weird thing for me to think of in that sense. And now with this ROG Ally, even different than the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck was like, I can play my Steam games. I now have Windows 11. I could have imported this version of Windows and backed it up onto my ROG and had my games there. So now it becomes this whole thing of what even like makes it feel like a game to me. And we called it out last year with Elden Ring. You made the comment, I could play Elden Ring on my Steam Deck, but I don't want to play that type of game on my handheld. And we still chase the feeling. So I think that's a very interesting thing to think about. And it leads into like, what do you think sets handheld gaming apart from other forms of gaming, such as a console or a PC? Like, why would you want to experience Elden Ring here or there? Or more importantly, like you even said it tonight, I can't remember what series, but if they would port that to the Switch, I would love to play it there. And I could play it on a PC. Like, what makes you feel that way?
Well, the one I was mentioning for the Nintendo Direct was Spark the Electric Jester, which is I don't think that's necessarily a handheld game. I mean, it's an indie platformer thing. I think it could work on a Switch. One that's more of just like the Switch is my main console now, and I probably end up playing my Switch on the TV way more than I play in handheld mode these days. So it is almost a little disappointing to me that I don't really have a handheld. My Switch is just a TV console thing. It's just nice that if ever the need arose, I could just take the Switch out and play it in handheld mode. But yeah, it's weird. There's still that style of game that I'm looking 100%. For, and it's kind of hard to put my finger on what makes it a different style. But it's kind of the same with like food, right? It's like some days you're just in the mood for a pizza, some days you're in the mood for a hamburger, and there are some days where I am into the idea of, okay, let's sit down and let's play Destiny with the highest HDR possible and 60 frames and booming sound and having this giant experience with all these explosions. And then there are other days where I want to sit down with my analog pocket and I want to play a Game Boy Advance version of Fire Emblem. And part of that is the game, but I think also part of that is the experience of okay, I can like sit down in my chair and put a blanket over me and have my little screen here, and it's my own little world that's all in this little box. Whereas some days it's, no, I want it on my TV and I want it big and I want it exciting and booming. And while those are both video games, and they both fulfill a similar like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, whatever the fuck, they do take up different brain spaces in how I want to engage with that media.
You called it out really good earlier, I think, to call back to your point made on like question 1 or 2 about being able to look up from what you're doing quickly and get back to what you're doing. And I think that has a lot to do with the type of games that I would still say like, oh, that seems like a perfect Switch game. Or we even said like, hey, this game would be perfect at home on the Switch, like Hotline Miami. I don't know why. I feel like I should play that on my handheld. It makes the most sense when I played it in those ways. And
I mean, it has like because that game is top down, it almost has like this diorama feel of like I should be looking into it. It's like a dollhouse that I want to view.
Totally.
And I think perspective does have a good. I think not saying that you can't make a good handheld game like this, a good game with handheld ideas, but very rarely can I think of a handheld style game that I'm looking for that has a third person behind the back camera angle. Like there's, I know they made Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories, but Grand Theft Auto does not feel like a handheld game until you make a Chinatown Wars or you go back to the original GTAs that were top down. I think that top down perspective is more of a handheld, has more of a handheld style feel. I think that's why something like Fire Emblem appeals to me more. And it's why something like a first person shooter also doesn't have a handheld feel to it. Now they've made first person shooter handheld games before. There's Metro Prime Hunters, which I think plays pretty darn well. There's Moon, there's a handful of other ones as well. But they're not as prevalent a style of game for that system. And I think it's just kind of because inherently those cameras, those perspectives, the mechanics that are involved in making that kind of a game don't lend themselves as well to a handheld device as something like a top down or a side scroller or a puzzle game do, because those just naturally have these perspectives that feel better or trick your brain better, that they work in a handheld sense. And they can work on a TV as well, but they work really well on a handheld.
It's interesting because a report from 2017 had showed that about 30% to 35% of all Switch owners were playing in handheld mode, where it was just shy of 20% of the time they were going to be using it docked. But most people go back and forth with it. And Nintendo probably had some good indication there with the Switch Lite coming out that there's still a very target audience that only wants to play these games on the go or in that format, which I think is a very interesting perspective on it.
And I'm sure they also had info on. It's gonna be a small sample size because it's the Wii U, but they also had people who played the Wii U, and one of the Wii U's biggest features was it did have off TV play. Not for every game, like some games wanted both screens, but a lot of games allowed you to play the game on just the handheld device. Now that's not a handheld device that you could take with you like a Switch, but it was like there were a lot of people out there, and people that I talked to, who said, yeah, I don't even really hook my Wii U up to my TV much anymore, because I just play this game on the handheld.
Yeah.
I went to the eShop and I downloaded Golden Sun, and I'm just going to play Golden Sun on the handheld device, and I don't even need to put it on the TV because it doesn't require it.
Yeah.
And then, if they, like, wives or girlfriends or parents can watch something on TV while I'm doing this, and then the Switch kind of is just that natural. Okay, well, now I have the whole thing right here, and I'm playing it handheld. And then if the parents or the wife or the siblings want to play something together, well, now we stick it into the dock, and now we can all play.
That was like what you just outlined. So when Sarah and I first moved in together, we really had one room. Like, we were pretty much living in one bedroom with an ensuite bathroom. We had one TV in there. Like, we would lay in bed and watch TV. And we got a Wii U. And I remember being blown away that, like, I could be playing Wind Waker in my lap on bed while Sarah was watching a Netflix show.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really cool to have that. When I mentioned I sold my Steam Deck, I met up with the guy off like Marketplace and was talking to him about it. And he's like, I'm just been at a point. He's like, I spend days working. I get home, my family's there. I just want to sit down on the couch and like unwind. And this is what I'm going to use to play those games. He's like, I've got a place to play them like a PC, but he's like, I just want to have that space to do it. And like,
you're able to be around the family without dominating or dictating what the family is seeing. And maybe this goes into maybe I'm doing a little self-psychology here. Like, I'm an only child. I don't know if it's shown in how we've done these podcasts. Maybe people could guess that. Somebody once told me that, like, before they even really knew much about me. They're like, "You're an only child, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" And like, "Nah, you just give that vibe." And it's like, is that an insult? What the fuck? But I think there is something to.
Yeah.
It's not so much that I don't want to share, but there is something about, this is mine. This is my little world. I'm not broadcasting it to anybody. I don't want to put it on a TV and make this a social thing where everybody has to look and comment on it. Like, this is just for me. This is what I like doing. I also have this with music. I would much rather put in my headphones and listen to a song than put my iPhone in speaker mode or whatever and play it for everybody. Like, that is, or the radio. If people get into my car and they're like, "Hey, let's play some music," I'm like, I don't want to play my music, because that's personal to me. And I think gaming, in many respects, like, there are certainly games that I want to play with other people. Mario Kart, would love playing with other people. Smash Brothers, that kind of stuff. But then there's other things like, this is my experience. It's just for me, and having my own little screen.
Are you
my
sure
own
you're
little
not the
world.
target audience for the Apple Vision Pro? Are you sure that's not? Are you sure you're
uh,
not that person?
I am sure because one, I don't want to spend $3,500.
Fair.
But two, I also don't want something. I don't want. There's too much fucking shit on me. You
I
know.
got yeah. Nobody wants
I
to be
don't.
Carl
I don't.
Havoc in their living room.
Exactly. I don't want all that crap. It is certain. I'm certainly more interested in it than I am a VR headset. In that I don't want something strapped to my face where I have, like I said, blocked out the entire rest of the world. I don't want to be completely disconnected. But that still feels like too much of a disconnect. Where I'd rather just have, here's my screen over here. I'm looking at it now. I'm not looking at it, and now I don't need these two to blend. That's not
Yeah.
something I always need.
So I've got like two more questions. I think I'm gonna ask you,
Yeah.
and I'd like to just get your finger on the pulse for like the current industry. I'm gonna lead you a little bit here with you called out earlier like a Switch 2.0, so clearly that's been a success for them. We
Mm-hmm.
did spend just a few episodes back covering the Sony event, and we had some pretty choice words to say for their current handheld offering.
Yeah.
But I'd love to just know like how do you envision the current state of the industry being impacted by handhelds, and what do you see happening maybe that excites you about that?
Yeah, I think we're in a real place of hybridization. I think
Mhm.
the Switch has changed a lot of people's views of how gaming can work. And that's where you get something like the Steam Deck. That's where you get your device that you've got now. And I think that's probably kind of at least something that prompted Sony to think, well, what can we do? And then I think they
Yeah.
fucking botched it, of course. But um, yeah, there's this idea of we don't have to choose anymore. We
Yeah.
can. Like there are people out there who feel differently from me who absolutely want to play Elden Ring on a Steam Deck. Um, but the idea is they can play games that I would deem more handheld games
Yeah.
right next to Elden Ring, and they could load either of those up whenever they wanted to.
Yep.
So we're definitely in an age now where I think Nintendo has spearheaded it, and now other people have taken the ball and ran with it, and we'll have to see what the Switch 2 or Switch Pro or whatever they call it ends up being. But it is a case where I think everybody understands that, oh, we can coexist,
Yeah.
and you can have your indie developers or your smaller developers or even your bigger developers who are just letting a team fly their freak flag and make something small and cool. That those games are allowed to be in the same pool as your Elden Rings and your Tears of the Kingdoms, and we all could play in the same space and just let people have let these people make the decisions for themselves of what they want to play on their various platforms. Let's just make sure that we have it all available to them, and that's really cool. That's
Yeah.
exciting, and I can't get mad if somebody wants to play Elden Ring on their Steam Deck because I can play other games on my Steam Deck,
Right.
and it's fine. It's totally fine what you want to play,
I
but the
think
options are now available to everybody, and that's cool.
I agree. I think it's remarkable that I no longer have to compromise where I play the games I want to play. Like on this Ally, I can play. We'll just keep the Elden Ring thing going. Elden Ring
Mm-hmm.
at a high fidelity at my computer and get a really great, competent, almost equal to experience on this device, and that feels really wild. I think it's also really interesting when we think about the current state of hybridization, but there's still some outliers. Like you mentioned your analog pocket, and
Mm-hmm.
we both, I'm kind of shocked we haven't brought it up until now, but the Playdate, like
Yeah.
devices that are trying to desperately be handheld in a nostalgic sense. One of those playing actual games from the time period, one trying to curb on that appeal of devices from there. But I think you look at Sony and they want you to be home. They don't want you to be on the go. They want you to be that
Mm-hmm.
person that's sharing a TV like the Wii U friend that we talked about earlier. there's some limitations there where they're gone a very strange direction. Now
Yeah, it
PCs,
feels weird that that thing is basically just a Wii U. Sony invented the Wii U
yeah,
way late.
with
It was like,
with
hey,
worse latency.
yeah, like we're not. Why'd you do that? And I
And,
think that thing will bomb and quietly go away, like many of Sony's hardware pieces do. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean the Playdate has. I'm glad you mentioned that because it is like a different thing and it plays in a different space and it's aiming to be more of a fun distraction
it's like a
toy.
Tiger Direct.
And yeah, and it's great that that's there.
Yeah,
I wish I played mine more. I wish I had the desire to play mine more. Um, I know they keep putting out seasons. I got an email from Playdate today
yeah,
going, here's some games, and I was like, oh, that one looks kind of cool. And do I really want to open up the Playdate? Nah, maybe not.
yeah.
Still waiting for that fucking dock.
If it had the dock, I'd
Like,
just grab it and play it probably. But
yeah.
well,
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a different philosophy on how you do some of those things.
I know
Yeah.
that as we wrap up here, you've made some comments about, like, is the sun setting on gamers on the go? Like, what does that look like these days? And I certainly hope not, but I would love to know, crystal ball in front of you. We kind of talked about influences over the last 10 years with mobile gaming, touch devices, the Vita. We've talked about bringing PC experiences to handheld. Where does this shit go? Like, where does this fucking thing, and is it VR headsets? Is that the next on the go thing? Like, what the fuck are we up
I hope
against
not.
here?
Yeah, I hope not. I
Yeah,
don't. I That's not the way I want to play my
right.
games. Um, we've had conversations about what we want VR or AR to be, or
Yeah,
when we were talking about the Apple stuff, and we had a conversation really recently about if they can get it to be. If they can get that technology light and comfortable enough that it's just in a pair of glasses, then okay, yeah, I can see that. But when it's these bulky headsets, no matter how slick and smooth you can make your headset, it's still a
goggles.
bulky thing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
still giant goggles. That's not going to be mainstream. And I think there is, at least for me, and I'm sure it'll be a generational thing. And 1, 2 generations down the line, they're not going to care about this. But there is a nostalgic love that I have for craning my head down and looking into a tiny little screen.
yeah,
That I think I'm going to always continue to cherish and want to have. Um, uh, I'm sure somebody will come around and go, yeah, you don't need to play games like that anymore, and then they'll stop. But they'll stop making games like that. But that's something I'll continue to care about. Yeah, as for gamers on the go, though, I think even more than how companies and industries have changed and the way the games have changed, I think what's done more damage, or what's done more what's slowed gamers on the go down most is this show.
yeah,
Is the casual hour. I'm able to get my thoughts out about video games each and every week, 2 times a week, in fact, because
yeah,
I'm on our Monday streams as well. And so I have not felt the need or the drive that, oh, I must tell the people about this thing, because I have other outlets to tell the people about that thing. That being said, I still love gamers on the go. I love the idea of that format of, hey, we're talking about one game or a franchise of games or something, but we're focusing on one topic for this show. I like the research aspect of that.
yeah,
And even though the games that are coming out today are not necessarily what I call handheld games, um, there's a giant back catalog of handheld games and
yeah,
handheld devices that I have never used or very rarely used. Um, the Analog Pocket has opened up my ability to play Sega Game Gear games, which
yeah,
I never owned a Game Gear. I played a friend's at his house a couple times, but I have no experience, like really no experience with that console, and I would love to do some kind of deep dive style things on what Game Gear gaming was like, and whether these games still hold up today. I mean, I know Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine still holds up. It's one of the greatest games of all time. But how does the rest of the Sega Game Gear catalog hold up?
For sure.
So that is all to say that, you know, Gamers on the Go might be at a very, very slow trip now, but it's something that's never going to completely go away, especially now that I've moved Gamers on the Go over to Acast, and it's way easier to produce and upload new episodes of that podcast. So you know, I will certainly announce any new Gamers on the Go episodes here and let the people know. But that is always something in my mind of what's the next thing I can do for Gamers on the Go. I know Johnny and I have teased each other for years now about, oh yeah, we'll do Minish Cap someday, and we'll definitely do that Minish Cap episode. And Jiggy, our good friend Jiggy, who was a frequent guest of Gamers on the Go, he and I have always talked about, oh yeah, well, someday we'll do that Golden Sun episode. And I love Golden Sun with a burning passion of 1,000 suns, but I don't know when I'm gonna actually get around to replaying that game to do a podcast about it. But there are always ideas that are in the hopper.
Nice. Well, Chase, that's it. That's a ton of fun. I wanted to ask you some questions around just the industry. I've definitely been thinking a lot about it, between finding a new favorite game with Zelda and picking up a new handheld computer. I just like tech as well. So it's interesting to see the resurgence in popularity and the conversation. It's also kind of scary because it's very, you know, like what we grew up with is not around much anymore. And it's
the world continues to turn for some reason. Why?
I know.
Should have stopped with us.
It should have stopped with us. So I think that there is something very nostalgic about that period of gaming, but the spirit does march forward with things like the Switch and the Ally and Steam Decks of the world.
Hey, I want to thank you. This was a lot of fun. I mean, I am prone to rambling, and you gave me a platform to ramble with impunity.
Man.
So that was good. But also, this is, like you said, this is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about, and it was really fun to codify those into a single episode of this podcast. I mean, these are things that I feel like I've been saying in a lot of scattered ways and in a lot of different episodes of lots of different podcasts and things. So to have this all kind of show up in one place can really get a bunch of thoughts down. This was great. I had a great time. Man.
Awesome.
We should have Johnny not on here more often.
Right? I know. Tell him to get his ass away from here. Let's get over to credits and talk a little bit about the week. So you did call out, we did some things different tonight with the what you've been playing format. I've been playing all the stuff in the Steam Next Fest. And if you want to get a sneak peek of that, head over to our YouTube page or right here on Twitch. And you can see we streamed a lot of those games on Monday night. And we're going to do it again to bookend that Next Fest taking place right now. But I've been playing some more of those. We didn't do any quick looks this week. Also, like, we're just recording stuff or getting things ready to record. Final Fantasy 16 came out today, I think, or is out today. And we'll be talking about that next week. Johnny's been playing some stuff on the go while he's on assignment. And we'll circle back to a few other things next week. But this week has been more about relaxing post everything with Summer Games Fest. We had a deep dive. Johnny was out. Friday night, I may stream some Diablo. We'll see. They did announce at the end of July the season's going to start, and it is tied to a character. So I'd rather just start a new character at the end of July for that season after I just got credits there. So I might do some more of the games that I don't think Chase and I will cover on Friday, but check our Twitter for all those things. You can head to the links here in chat. But Chase, as we talked about Gamers on the Go, you have also taken on some other cool, exciting things beyond just video games. What do you got happening in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I have another podcast that has become one of my favorite things to do, partially because I get to do it with one of my favorite people, one of our good friends and friend of the show, Pierce Corshane.
Very good.
We have a podcast called Pilot Program. It's about TV. We watch, Pierce and I watch the first episodes of every television show ever made. We've got 12 episodes in so far, so still ways to go until we get all of them. But this last episode we did was on Hell's Kitchen, the reality cooking competition show that stars Gordon Ramsay. We did the American version, although I also watched the original UK version as well. Yeah, that's out now. It's we recorded it yesterday. I edited it. It's up there. You can go to shows.acast.com/pilot program or the link in our chat here, and go find that episode. We had a great time. We announced what our next episode is going to be. It's still technically Pride Month as we try to record and get this next one out. So we are going to do RuPaul's Drag Race. So we're going to do like a double dose of reality TV. I can tell you I've already watched this episode of RuPaul's Drag Race and I've got my notes ready for it and everything, and it was a lot of fun. I'm certainly out of my element with this, but I had a lot of fun. I think we'll have a good conversation about it, so look forward to that. And then I don't think we're going to announce it quite yet, but we also know what the next episode is going to be, and I'm pretty excited about that one because I'll give you a little hint. It has a season 2 that is coming out very soon, which is why we're going to do season 1 or the first episode.
Came out today, maybe.
I could not tell you when it came out. Probably came out today.
Does it have to do with food?
Shut up. Yeah. We'll do that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's exciting. Like I said, shows.acast.com/pilot program. That show's been fun. And I'm glad Pierce tolerates me to be able to do that show because I really like doing it.
Awesome, man. Well, lots of good things to hang out with. We'll be back really next week with most of our regular programming. This week we're still going to just chill a little bit and hang out. Chase, thanks for the time tonight. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And go check out the Nintendo Direct stuff. There's some really cool stuff they showed off. So we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.